The way that this broke down Regina George ran these girls and even intimidates grown folks literally is sending me. Okay. If you guys are new here, my name is Ashley and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my take on all things TV and movie related. And I am here to put you on. Okay. And I just watched 2 episodes of a brand new series that premiered today on Hulu called Under the Bridge, based on a novel by the same name, written by Rebecca Godfrey, who's now no longer in the land of the living, but wrote this story about a true crime that took place in 1997. A young girl named Reena Virk went to a friend's party and never returned home. This series is through the eyes of Godfrey, played by Riley Keough, and a local officer played by Lily Gladstone. The series takes us into the hidden world of the young girls accused of the unaliving, revealing startling truths about the unlikely unaliver. Okay. And again, this is based on the true crime book Under the Bridge by the late Rebecca Godfrey. The series was adapted for screen by Quinn Shepard and is executive produced by Samir Mehta, Liz Tiglier, and Stacey Silverman. Shepard, Godfrey, and Tara Duncan. Geeta Vazant Patel directed and served as an executive producer on the first episode. Okay. The first 2 episodes were one, Looking Glass, and episode 2 was The John Gotti of Seven Oaks. And I'll be giving my initial impression and also giving a review on these first 2 episodes because I've already watched them and it's fresh in my mind. You guys, I really wanted to sit down and talk about this show because I think that it's important. I think that even though this took place in 97, some of the themes are still so central to who we are as people today in 2024. Not only things that you may experience as an adult, but what teens and young adults are going through as it stands, right? From the intersectionality of being one of the only POC people in a certain area, right? To what the foster care system looks like, to what religious pressures might, translate into. Yeah, I think there's a lot of important themes to discuss and talk about, and we'll get into it and I'll see how you guys feel about the series and if this is something you really want to talk about in depth. But episode 1, Looking Glass. Now, this all takes place in Victoria, British Columbia. And if y'all have not been to Victoria, I don't even know how to describe it. It is one of the most peaceful, relaxing, tranquil, beautiful little islands right off of Port Angeles in Washington State. I think it's like an hour ferry ride to get to Victoria. And it's really an amazing place. The people are amazing. Just like I said, you feel safe, you feel secure. So it surprised me that this situation took place there, right? And so in 97, on a quiet island in British Columbia, 14-year-old Reena Virk attends a party and never returns home. Her disappearance intrigues a novelist who's already come home, really, to write about her town. And she finds herself drawn into the hidden world of teen suspects. And so initially, we meet Reena, right? And she's getting picked up from school by her uncle. And, he's bought her the new Biggie Smalls CD. Okay. So she cannot be happier. All right. But he says something that gets under her skin and she tries to jump out the car while the car is moving. And I'm like, Reena, what? Baby sis, what is going on with you? Right. And so then we see her go to this group home that's filled with girls and clearly, I don't want to say these are bad girls, but clearly they're an element of their own. Okay. And they're run by one young lady. And let me do this and let's talk about the cast a little bit because I didn't give you that information. So Chloe Guidry plays Josephine Bell, and Josephine Bell is the ringleader of this little girl group home gang, right? Gang is basically what they are and they claim to be. And so she goes over there to hang out with her friends, right? And they're vibing and she's like, look, Reena's like, look, I got the new Biggie CD. And Josephine's like, girl, bring it here. Okay. And so they put the music on and they're jumping on. Well, Reena starts jumping off on the bed and Josephine was like, hold up. I'm gonna need you to get down from my bed. Okay. Because you're going to break it, which is kind of rude because Reena is, a healthy girl. Okay. And so she immediately kind of takes, like, okay, I'll get down. And then apparently that's pissed Josephine off because now they're about to go to this party and they say, Reena, you can't go. You can't go, Reena. You can't go. So Reena goes home and we meet her beautiful family, honey. And why is her mama played by Kalinda from The Good Wife? If you know, you know. And I was like, not Kalinda. Not Kalinda. And so they're all sitting together as this big multi-generational family that live in the same home. And I don't know what their nationality is. And I don't know if they are Indian or what their nationality is. I will drop it here somewhere. But again, a multi-generational family. They live in the home together. They have their dinners together. And it seems like a loving family, right? And so the mom is saying the prayer, honey, and she's like, Jehovah. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they're Jehovah's Witnesses, which again was kind of another element. And so Reena, you can tell, is very much rejecting that idea, honey. But Reena's on a mission as well because she got snubbed from the party. And she feels some type of way. So, honey, she proceeds before she had left the group home and Josephine's room. She took her journal, which is, I don't want to call it a burn book, honey, because it had phone numbers, it had everything else in it. But Reena takes it. Reena started calling everybody, honey, just lying like a rug, talking about what a bee Josephine is, honey, that she's got diseases, everything, done told everybody. And so it's like, you girl, you had to know that they were going to find out. Okay. But again, doesn't justify anything. Again, this is high school. They're 14 years old. 14 years old. Who would ever imagine this? And so basically, Josephine, after she finds out that Reena been running her mouth and lying on her and doing all the things, she's like, Reena, you coming to the party tonight? And Reena was like, I thought I wasn't invited. Not knowing she's being set up for the okie doke. Mind you, she's got one, I think that's kind of her real friend in this girl gang, but that's really it. Josephine ain't nobody's friend. The other girl ain't nobody's friend. Okay. And so she gets invited to this party and she's like, I want to go. And the mom's just like, let her go. If she wants to go, just let her go. We sick of Reena. And now she also alludes to something that's happened before that we haven't quite learned yet. So I don't know. That'll come out eventually. It didn't come out in episode 1 or 2, so we'll see. So meanwhile, while all that's happening, Rebecca has arrived home back at her parents' house, and her dad seems like a loving guy. You know what I mean? Her dad and mom greet her warmly. The mom is like, how are you? She's made all this food, welcoming her baby home, and she's staring at Rebecca, and Rebecca is like, why are you looking at me? You looking at my wrinkles? Okay, so Rebecca's 27 at this point. And the mom's like, no. And she's like, why don't you call some of your friends and hang out? And she's like, I don't talk to anyone from this place anymore. I live in New York City now. That's not my thing. I'm just here to write my book. Basically, I need to see what's going on in the town. Okay. And so that's how we meet her. And I'm like, okay, girl, not really likable. I really don't like Rebecca's character so far. And I hope that shifts and changes. But she seems very much about her. And I think she's got a history. And so hopefully, ultimately, we'll see her history in Victoria as well, what it was like growing up for her in the times. Okay, so now we meet the police. And we meet a girl who is clearly indigenous, right? And we meet her dad, who's a popular actor. That we see, but her name is Camp Bentland, played by Lily Gladstone. And I love her immediately. But again, you can tell that she's still trying to find her way. She's trying to prove herself on the police force and figure out, all the things. Let's go to the party. Let's get on to the party. Let's get on there. Right. And so Reena arrives to the party, and it's not the warm welcome necessarily that we expect. Right. Because now it's out the bag and she knows that they know that she's been spreading everything. And so I didn't know what was going to happen, honey, but they start closing in on her. She gets scared, runs to the payphone, calls her family and is like, can someone come pick me up? I need to be picked up, blah, blah, blah. And then we don't see Reena again. We see all these people chasing her and her kind of running, but that's it. Okay. And so now time has passed and her family's got worried. They call the police and actually go up there. Her dad and uncle, I believe, go up there, or and grandfather, maybe. One of them doesn't really speak English that well, but it's enough for you to understand. And so they go, and Kim is the receiving officer along with another guy there, and just really give them a hard time. And it was really ugly. And so the uncle's like, I'd expect that from him, but not you. And she's like, well, why not me? And it's like, girl, you have this awareness, right? Like, because she's clearly indigenous and her father is Caucasian. And again, she was adopted. We find that out later. Cam was adopted. And so, they're frustrated because their baby girl is missing. She called home, but never made it home. So where is she? And she's like, a lot of girls do this, so we don't typically take it seriously, but she chases after them when they get up to walk away. And she's like, look, I'm sorry, but this is something that happens and we just didn't want to waste our time. And they're like, why would this be a waste of your time? And so now she's on the case, right? And so, this is when things kind of start to get interesting, because this is when Rebecca bumps into Josephine. She goes to this girl's home that she knows is a known girl's home, and proceeds to kind of meet the girls and just kind of learn them, because she's getting material for her book, not really anticipating she's going to come into what she comes into. And so she's giving the girls cigarettes, just kind of ingratiating herself to Josephine, especially since Josephine is the ringleader. While she's there, though, I believe that is when the police come, and they're rounding up the kids. Get the kids, take them to the police. And so Rebecca decides she's going to go to the police too, and be there with Josephine. And again, they're just questioning the kids about if they saw Reena, what happened with her, what's going on. Okay. And so Cam, the officer, is the one who's kind of spearheaded this. And basically her dad is like, get these kids out of here. This is not a thing. We're not about to do this. And I'm like, how could you be so callous? We have somebody missing, right? And so then we kind of get this footage and we see Reena walking. The camera shows her walking and that she's still alive. So she's no worse for the wear, but she's alive. Okay. And so they're like, okay, let the kids go. You have us looking amateur night. The dad says to her, not in those words. But basically you get the point. And Cam is like, no, this isn't right. I still, have an issue. And so ultimately we find out that after all the kids have gotten to go home and all that stuff, we find out that Cam, now the police have located Reena's body. So Reena is officially gone. We know that she is no longer in the land of the living. So there's a lot that has to happen at this point. But meanwhile, Josephine and Rebecca are hanging out and they're the best of friends. And there is this young black lady that's a part of the friend group. And I will drop her name in here too, in my edit. And she is the one who was really Reena's real friend, I think, as much as she could be. Again, it's peer pressure. It's being a person of color, in these spaces, trying to fit in, wanting acceptance. I can see so many dimensions in this story, which I think is why it's so important that it's told. And so Josephine takes Rebecca and the friend to the bridge, right? I'll take you under the bridge and tell you what really happened to Reena, is what Josephine says. And so they get there and she's like, so she gets there and is like, yeah, she was walking, but right here, this is the moment I threw her down and she was gone. And this is Josephine telling this to Rebecca. And she's like, Rebecca, you're not going to tell anything. And, as long as you put me in my book, you don't rat on me, and I get to come back to New York with you when you go back home. Josephine, girl, ain't nobody taking you anywhere. And Rebecca has a moment where she talks to her parents about this. She's like, I want to lie to the girl. We know I'm not taking her back to New York, but I want this story. Sick. Okay. And so after she tells her, I'm thinking to myself, Rebecca, why don't you call them people? Even if she's being funny or whatever, it's not funny. Okay. First of all, call them people and get them on it, because a young girl is missing. Like, call now. And so the other girl who's there, who I believe was really Reena's friend, runs off, and she is shook. She is absolutely shook because she knew about the fight. She participated in all that stuff. But this part, she didn't know, because she's secretly been calling Reena's parents' house, just sitting on the phone, hoping that Reena will answer the phone. And so she ends up talking to Cam, the police officer, after she finds this out, and she tells her what happened. Of course, they find the body, and now things are going to get deeper. Okay. Mind you, Rebecca still ain't called the police. I think by the end of episode 2, she's approaching that situation. But in episode 2, I really love it because the girl that we meet at the beginning of episode 1, Reena, is not the same Reena that we meet in episode 2, which is 8 months before. And so we meet Reena, and she is starting high school, and she is so innocent and so naive. Like, she's not even allowed to shave her legs yet. You know what I mean? But when we meet her, it's the morning of her birthday, and her dad makes her just the regular breakfast. And she's like, you know what? I expected something more. And he's like, the mother is like, we don't celebrate birthdays. We're Jehovah's Witnesses, and goes on to kind of say that that's pagan. And Rena's like, me being born is pagan, but her temperament, her countenance was so different before all this. And so she goes to school, and they're getting changed for PE, I'm sure. And they see her legs, and they call her the Beast because she's hairy, right? And so she runs to the convenience store, and she's like, I need to get some shavers because I need to shave my legs because this is not acceptable. And there she meets Josephine, and this is when the unlikely friendship begins. And Josephine's like, these are the best razors, and just take them, just steal them. And so she does, and they're instant friends now. I mean, Josephine was really recruiting for her gang that day. Okay. And it starts their friendship, if that's what you want to call it. She goes home, she tries to shave, the mom busts in. And it's a thing. And again, I like how we're getting to see the dynamic that religion, again, being a minority or the only POC or one of the only POCs in these spaces, like I said, the foster care system, they all intersect in this story. And I think it's important to see, and talk about. But I am enjoying the series so far. Again, that's kind of a brief synopsis of the first 2 episodes. Drop it in the comments below and let me know what you're thinking of the show if you've checked it out. From the perspective that we're getting, it's very raw, it's very real. You feel immersed in the story, and you feel like you're really getting to understand these characters, which I absolutely love. The musical direction is incredible. Like, if you were a 90s kid, then you absolutely are vibing with this, from Nirvana to Biggie to Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like, I mean, you're feeling all of the feels as this show is going on. And music, I always feel like, is not only transformative, but it can also feel like it's translating you to a place, right? And so it brings out so many of those elements. But like I said, drop it in the comments if you're watching. Let me know your thoughts about it. And you guys, that's all I got. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, honey, and watch a couple other videos. Help your good sis out in getting these watch hours, okay? But that's all I got for you guys right now. See you in the next video.